Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only ICP. Look, man, there has been a resurgence in price in recent times, right? We can see, ladies and gentlemen, that when we go to something like the daily chart, right, we had a nice rally in the beginning of June, but unfortunately, it was kind of short lived, only for roughly a week. And the next 2 weeks, we kind of sold off. But then, ladies and gentlemen, we were kind of consolidating for a few days. We were, right? We could argue that practically from the 23rd until July 9th, we were consolidating. Boom. And then what happened the last few days? Well, Bitcoin went crazy, right? Bitcoin went crazy. Now, here's the thing with Bitcoin. This thing has been kind of just going sideways for a while. In terms of the last relevant zone, we've kind of just been ranging since the 9th of May until, like, let's just say even the 9th of July. So it was a couple of months, right? It was like 2 months of ranging before we finally broke out. Now, on the bigger picture, though, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have been in this like main price zone for a while, right? For a while, like this zone up here, right? Even debatably coming back into this, we've been kind of seeing some of these price points ever since you can argue like the beginning of December, right? And of course, we had the whole thing where we're going down, everyone was panicking, blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, we had the resurgence, boom. Then we had sideways movement, and now we're officially breaking out. And I do believe we will continue to break out because, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we were technically kind of just going sideways for 6 months. On this lower time frame, we were going sideways here for 2 months. Then we finally broke out, and I expect for us to continue to go up higher and higher, right? I really, really do. The furthest I think we'll pull down to is most likely like 115 and a half before we make the next leg up. So what does that mean for something like ICP? Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we go and look at ICP, we can see that, we are having a little bit of a sell-off right now, but that's just because Bitcoin went down temporarily, right? When we look at ICP's big picture, right? Big picture, which is really relevant, right? We know that we were kind of selling off consistently. You could say, let's just say from the beginning of June, or sorry, not June, December. From the beginning of December, we have been selling off, right? We were kind of in this trend. We were selling off consistently, right? Going like this. And then, right, from roughly the 8th of April is when actually momentum started to switch. We went from being kind of in a diagonal sell-off trend to consistently going sideways. It's like, yeah, sometimes we kind of sold off a little bit, sometimes we pumped a little bit, but ultimately we are shifting. We are shifting, and that is the reality. And what do you think is going to be happening next on a consistent basis in the next few weeks? You guessed it, a rally to the upside. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a channel like this necessarily, right? I'm not sure exactly if it's going to be a channel directly like this, but it would not surprise me that in the next few weeks, we will see ICP break from this, let's just say $4.65 range out of this $6 range, right? That's the main range, that $1.50 range, right? We're looking to be breaking out of it sooner than later. And once we do, we are going to start matching the price points that we have on the left side. Okay. So I expect a very, very nice rally. Now, here's the thing. If we look out even more, if we zoom out even more, right, we have something very, very similar to what we had over down here. So, I've said this before, but just in case you are a new viewer, I'm going to show this for you, right? We have this rally point here and this rally point here, kind of like a double top, right? Number one, number two. Okay. Then what do we have here? We kind of had a main support. Well, what did we have here? We kind of had a main support. Okay. Then what happened? We break through the main support. We break through the main support. No, we struggled to go up and then we just continue to go down, right? we struggle to go up, and we just kind of continue to go down, and then we start going sideways. And that is literally almost near identical what was happening, right? We are somewhere in this zone over here, right? I expect some type of push to the upside sooner than later for ICP to kind of start matching and flipping the momentum officially, right? Whether it's a short-term pullback just of, maybe 20, 30, 50 cents, or, just straight pump, it doesn't really matter, because ultimately I do believe we will start matching the price, and we will start doing something very, very similar to what the sell-off was doing, but in reverse as a buy, and doing something what the buy was doing over here, right? I truly do believe we are in some of the final stages of where you can get ICP for relatively cheap, because I do believe we will be creating something similar to this, but at a very big level, right? At a very, very big level. Okay. Because when we look back, this was kind of like the main zone, right? This whole area. Actually, if I draw it out nicer, let's just do it like this, right? Boom. If we take this arrow over here, right? This, duplicate it like this, right? This was kind of like the main zone. Okay. Now we are kind of in this main zone over here where we can go like this, right? And then boom, like this, right? But eventually we are going to start climbing up the ladder, right? We're going to start climbing up the ladder. And once we get to here, right, this resistance, this red resistance here is going to become a floor. And once this kind of becomes a floor, we're probably going to create something very, very similar to this, right? And here's the thing, right? When this area over here got created as it went from a roof to a floor, we went up a good amount, right? We went up 335%. Now, if we did something similar to that, right? This is just speculation, but if we went at 335% or something similar, we would be looking at roughly $50. Now, here's the thing. We do have actually a weekly order block candle at $50. So that would be one of the potential sell zones I'm looking at. But the other main zone that I'm looking at is this $70 area. Okay. Now, I do believe we actually will get a better percentage pump compared to last time, despite going higher up in price, despite it taking more money, because the context this time around is that altcoin season will happen, an official altcoin season where Bitcoin dominance crashes, that 30-40% will be happening. So I actually do believe, we will be getting a huge, huge, huge rally, and I expect things to be moving very fast when it does, right? People ask me, well, when does it happen? When will it happen? Guys, I can't tell you the exact date, but I could tell you what needs to happen on the chart, right? Once Bitcoin dominance starts crashing, roughly, let's say 10% over a span of 2, 3, 4 weeks, and we get something very similar to this, where we went from 73.5% all the way down to even like 62%, right? That's over a 10% crash in a month, right? Once we see that and we see some sideways movement for consistently for a couple of weeks, that's when we know the big crash is going to be happening, right? Where we have 4 to 6 weeks of a huge, huge pump. Okay, but even this move over here is going to already pump ICP by a good amount. This going sideways for a couple weeks just means ICP is going to stabilize for the final big massive push. So, most likely in terms of percentages, we're probably going to go to roughly 70 to 74%. In terms of date and timings, probably near fall time. But look, I'm not in a rush. We are much closer to the finish line than we are further. And you could even debate that we are actually closer to the finish line than the middle line. So yeah, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm personally super, super high in this coin. When we even go and look at something like ICP's market cap, right? Boom, it's $5.34. 2.86 billion market cap, 115 million volume, which is what we love to see. If we just simply 10x from here, we'd be at 28 billion market cap at $53. If we 15x from here, right, we are going to be looking at roughly that, it's a little bit less, but like roughly that 40 to 45 billion market cap zone. And we actually would be looking at perfectly around that $70 to $75 range. So that is more than realistic. $70 ICP, $75 ICP is more than realistic, and you would be looking at roughly 14 to 15 times your gains if you bought today. Now, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, but this is simply how I see it. Anyways, I love you guys so much. Hopefully, guys, you did enjoy. I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.